Thank you for joining me. This is the Spiritual Princess, and I kind of wanted to talk about spirit guides, angels, and the spirit world. When I began opening up to my abilities, I really had no idea what a spirit guide was. And it wasn't until I was under attack by something evil, when I was sleeping, that I heard a female yell, "Get Archangel Michael here now!" And as soon as she said that attack on me stopped, and I was released from whatever was trying to hurt me. And that was really scary, as many people can imagine. And I know there's countless people out there who have these attacks, and it terrifies them. But I was also fascinated by the female yelling for help on my behalf. My family didn't attend church. My grandparents were Mormon, and I didn't know much about religion. I'd never heard of Archangel Michael until that incident. And I'm definitely not Catholic, and I think he comes from the Catholic faith. And so I still don't attend church, and I am definitely not Catholic. Not that there's anything wrong with it, I'm just saying. So I did a lot of research on who Archangel Michael was, to figure out why some unseen female was screaming for him during this spiritual attack on me. So once I learned who he was and his power to drive evil away, that really opened my eyes to the other side's power. And that's when I began tapping into this female who asked for help on my behalf, because I needed to learn who she was. And it turns out she was my primary spirit guide. And she tells me that everybody has spirit guides that are basically ethereal beings assigned to us before birth that nudge and guide us through life. These guides are responsible for helping us fulfill the spiritual contract we made with ourselves before incarnation. The wise being in all of us is our higher self, and that higher self helps select our guides who help us while we live out our lives. Some guides will stay with us throughout our entire life, and I guess others will pop in now and again to help us if we have a certain goal in life or that we're trying to attain. But the guides are at varying levels of consciousness. So some might be as high as like an ascended master, as Jesus Christ was or is, and others might be the average spirit, just knowledgeable in a specific area. Some guides, though, appear to have male or female energy, but in truth, they are only energy. Guides can be spirits who have had physical lives, or they might be spirits who have never taken human form. They can be on a panel for other living people, or solely be guiding you. Some people wonder if the guide could be a deceased relative, but that is less likely. Not that it's impossible, but it's less likely. When it comes time for your spirit guide to help you, they do this by tuning into your energy and helping direct you to fulfill your earthly mission. So tapping into them through meditation is what a medium does. And that's when we quiet our mind and listen to our inner voice for the guidance. The best time to try to tap into your guides is like right before falling asleep or waking up, while your mind is at peace. I do it a lot at those times because I'm relaxed, and it makes connecting to my guides much easier before the busy day begins or ends. If you can't stop the mind chatter while awake for meditation, you can try this deep breathing method before bed, and just start by taking deep breaths while visualizing protective white light all around you. With every inhale, imagine white light going into your lungs, and as you exhale, release any tension you might have held onto during the day. That's when you should call on your guides, and the more you relax, you may hear them speak as you ask questions. But this method is tricky because As you relax deeper and deeper, you risk falling asleep before hearing your guides, angels, or loved ones. My son was born with the same abilities I have. And in his teenage years, he utilized that technique to communicate with his guides. And that's because one of his abilities is that he's clairaudient like me. So when you're clairaudient, it means you can hear them. And sometimes you hear them clearly, or sometimes it can be kind of a higher pitch sound. When I was a teenager, I had no idea what mediums were. I didn't really know too much about psychics. But I know when I was driving, there was crazy incidents where I would hear voices. And it was like they're right in my ear. And I remember one time I was driving and I heard a voice very clearly say, "Slow down." And I immediately looked at the speed I was going and slowed down to the speed limit. And about a block later, there was a motorcycle cop hiding on the corner with his radar, just right at my car. So if I had not heard that voice tell me to slow down, I would have got a ticket as a teenager. So, I used to rely on those voices, but I didn't know what they were. Now that I'm an adult, I can hear them, but mostly I am a mental medium, so they impress thoughts into my mind. And then I'm clairvoyant, so I can see them in my third eye. So now that I'm older and, I've taken a lot of training, years of training. So that all works naturally now. It's just like an everyday thing for me. But ultimately, spirit guides can see what's going on in our lives. And when it's time for them to step in, they accomplish this in different ways. They will send signs. They can arrange synchronicities to help alert us that something we need to see or know is coming up. So it's really crucial to pay attention to those when they happen. So here are a few questions that people have asked, and I let my guides answer these questions. The first one is, I know my mom in spirit leaves me dimes. Where does she get them? My guide says, for a spirit to leave a dime, penny, or other items, that's created with synchronicity, where someone else has dropped a particular item before you found it. And you will take that as a sign that your loved ones gave it to you, okay? Spirits don't go around collecting spare change and putting it on your path at the right time. That would be really hard for them to do. So my guide said, it is done, but it is rare. But please understand that when you find a penny, your loved ones synchronized the event because it made you happy and you felt a connection to them for that brief moment. Okay, so question number 2. How do my loved ones make a song play on the radio at the right time? My guide says, songs played at the right time when you need to hear them the most is synchronicity. Spirit can drop a quick thought in someone's mind, and that person can be the one who handles what song gets played at the radio station. Or that person might get an overwhelming feeling to play a certain song, so they do. And that has an emotional impact on you. If you have experienced this type of synchronicity, you know how emotional it can be. And I do have a story. It happened to me one day after my aunt died of lung cancer. I was in my car in traffic listening to the radio, and my radio station began changing stations by itself, which shocked me because I could see it actually start scanning the channels without my hands being near it. And it stopped at a station that started playing a song called I'll Stand By You, which the Pretenders originally sang, but this version was from Rennie, and it was performed on her album titled Irene. Well, Irene is my middle name, so I took that as a sign. So I listened to the lyrics, and by the 3rd or 4th verse, I was in tears because my aunt's death was so fresh, and I was so sensitive and emotional about it. And the lyrics to that song start with like, "Oh, why do you look so sad? Tears are in your eyes. Come on and come to me now. Don't be ashamed to cry. Let me see you through." Of course, the lyrics were powerful and emotional for me, but when I shared the story with my mom, which is my aunt's only sister, she told me that she was driving at the same time and heard the same song on the same radio station. And I remember we both looked at one another like we were in disbelief. But I understood that was my aunt's way of telling us that she was still around. My mom was the one who was with her the day she died. She died in my mom's arms, in fact. But I'm glad that my mom had spent a lot of time with her right before she died unexpectedly from a pulmonary embolism. Okay, so here's another question, and it kind of piggybacks on what we were just talking about. The question is, I would like to know about the signs they send us, like feathers and other things. How do we know it's from them and not just some random thing we find? How do we know who is sending the sign? So my spirit guides say, Spirit will send signs if the individual is open to it and recognize it as a special type of communication. So the living needs to be open-minded and acknowledge when they believe something is a sign. If they constantly doubt finding that coin or feather, the spirit will stop trying to communicate that way because they know the mind is not open enough to enjoy the experience the way it's intended. So you don't necessarily know who is sending a sign, like a feather, but if you've been thinking about a deceased loved one for a day or two, then you need to understand that is who is sending the message. Their message is, I hear you, and I'm still around you as you think about me. Okay, here's another question. How many spirit guides are assigned to each soul, and who assigns them? My guide says it depends on how fragile the soul is and what their lessons are. So, as each soul has a team of guides and angels helping them before they come to Earth, it's really up to their spiritual team to decide who will be assigned to each person before they're born. Another way to connect with your guides, angels, or loved ones is with gut feelings. So, if they want you to pay attention to something, they will usually give you this gut feeling to pay attention. So, have you ever felt that something horrible was going to happen, but you couldn't really put your finger on it? Sometimes that's a guide nudging you to pay attention. Or if you've experienced intuitive insight, this insight is another way they can try to speak to you by impressing thoughts into your head. Or you might hear the actual voice say, like I said, slow down. I have a friend who heard a voice tell her, he's cheating on you. And it turned out that my friend's husband was bringing women to their home when she was away. When she confronted him based on that voice, he confessed to cheating, and it obviously led to a divorce. So you really need to pay attention to the thoughts that appear to come out of nowhere, but contain crucial information. So when I was a teenager, I would have these crazy conversations in my head with whatever was there, and I would write them down in notebooks, which I thought I was just journaling. And turns out later in life, I learned that was called automatic writing. And it's a tool that helps somebody tune into the spirit world and receive messages from guides, angels, or loved ones. It can be helpful for those who can channel the spirit messages through pen and paper, either by writing what you hear in your mind or by scribbling on paper to allow the messages to flow. That's what I did, and I didn't even know what I was doing as a child or early teen. But it is an excellent way to build confidence in your mediumship abilities. But, you have to learn to trust it. And when you don't have a pen and paper handy, you have to try to hear it and listen to it. And of course, automatic writing takes practice like anything else. And I was doing it from an early age. Some psychics and mediums will use tarot cards or other tools. But the tarot cards, they can help someone tune into what the person wants to know, but experienced mediums won't use that, And I'm not saying tarot cards are harmful, but mediums should only use them to help gain confidence in what they already know. For the people who don't have a strong mediumship ability, they won't give the tarot cards up, and they basically rely solely on those for their messages. But in my experience, tarot cards were not helpful, because when a medium connects with spirit, that is special, and no card can help a medium feel what a spirit feels or wants to tell their loved ones. So the card reader can easily misinterpret tarot cards, so they are not a tool that I rely on. I have known tarot card readers who have used them successfully, but more than likely the person is not a medium, but more of a psychic, and that's fine. Amazingly, guides and loved ones can send people into our lives at the right time, and it never ceases to amaze me when my spiritual team tells me that they meet with another person's guides, and together they create a meeting between the two living people. Perhaps there was a time when you thought about someone from the past, and out of the blue you saw them in the store later that day. Was that a chance encounter? Probably not. It's probably your guide setting that up. Suppose you were thinking about traveling and you ran into an old travel agent while shopping. So if it feels like fate, consider that it might be more of a setup by your guides and your loved ones on the other side, rather than it being a coincidence. Perhaps you were running late and cannot find your car keys, and you're frustrated because you need to get somewhere on time, and then suddenly the phone rings, and it's a very important call that you would have missed if you had gone a few minutes earlier. So who do you think misplaced your keys? More than likely it was the work of your spirit guides, angels, or loved ones. And this is hard for them to do because you have free will. But they love to arrange and push us in all these kinds of directions that they want us to go, so that something good happens in our life. But they can only place so much or press so hard. So the more you notice their clues, the better. So that's what spirit guides are, and that's how they help us. So I hope you enjoyed that, and have a great day. Love and light.